titled The Strength to Begin Again, A Journey of Resilience. When life shatters into pieces, it feels impossible to gather them all back together. But what if the broken pieces are the very things that make us stronger? This is the story of a journey that begins in despair, but leads to empowerment, showing that the greatest strength often comes from starting over. Life had always seemed like a delicate balance of dreams and fears, but for Maya, it had recently become a series of overwhelming challenges. One morning, as the sun's first light filtered through her bedroom window, she sat at the edge of her bed, staring at the cluttered thoughts in her mind. The world outside her window felt like a different place, one where hope had vanished and left behind an emptiness she didn't know how to fill. She had lost something important, something that had once fueled her every step. But now the path ahead felt unclear. Her reflection in the mirror showed a woman on the brink of a breakdown, her eyes dull from endless worry. Yet within her, something stirred, a flicker of realization. Perhaps it wasn't the end after all. Maya took a deep breath and stood up. The first step is always the hardest, but this time she was ready to take it. The city was still waking up, and the streets seemed to whisper in quiet anticipation. Maya walked through the park near her apartment, her mind racing with questions she had no answers to. But as she passed by a fountain, something unexpected happened. She paused, listening to the calming sound of water cascading into the basin. It was peaceful. For the first time in weeks, her mind wasn't racing. In that moment, she understood something crucial. Life, like the water in the fountain, flows in cycles. There were times of stillness and times of turmoil, but both were necessary for growth. With this newfound clarity, Maya realized that the key to moving forward lay not in escaping her pain, but in embracing it. The journey ahead wasn't about running from her past, but about forging a new path from the lessons learned along the way. She was ready to rewrite her story. Maya spent the next few days reflecting on the life she wanted to build. She started small, journaling her thoughts, reconnecting with old passions, and simply allowing herself the time to heal. It wasn't easy, and at times the weight of the past felt unbearable. But with each passing day, she began to realize that her struggles didn't define her. They were only chapters in a much larger story. One evening, as she sipped tea on her balcony, Maya caught a glimpse of the stars. They were distant, yet they shone brightly, unwavering in the darkness. She realized that she, too, could be like the stars, resilient, shining even in the darkest moments. It was then that she knew her purpose was waiting for her. It was just hidden beneath the layers of fear and doubt she had been carrying. The next week, Maya started taking actions that terrified her. Small steps, yet ones that held great significance. She reached out to an old friend she had lost touch with, poured her heart into a long-forgotten hobby, and even attended a local support group. Each step felt like a victory, even though it was hard to shake off the feeling of vulnerability that came with it. But with every new action, Maya realized something extraordinary. The more she embraced vulnerability, the stronger she became. She had spent so long trying to protect herself from pain, but in doing so, she had also kept herself from growing. Now, each small step forward was a testament to her courage, and with every challenge, she became more resilient. By the end of the month, Maya had begun to see life through a new lens. The weight that had once been so heavy on her shoulders now felt lighter. She had not only learned to cope with her struggles, but had begun to use them as stepping stones toward a stronger version of herself. Every setback had given her a lesson in resilience, and every tear shed had nourished the seeds of growth within her. Maya knew the road ahead would still have its obstacles, but she no longer feared them. The woman who once felt lost now stood tall with a renewed sense of purpose. Her journey had only just begun. As Maya continued her journey, she faced moments of doubt. The comfort of her old life, despite its flaws, was always there, tempting her to return. Change was never easy, and every step forward felt like an uphill battle. There were days when the weight of the world pressed down on her, and the fear of failure loomed large. But in those moments, Maya reminded herself of something important. Growth never happens in comfort. It happens when we step outside of our safety zones and face the uncertainty head-on. She had learned to trust in the process, even when the road ahead seemed unclear. With each challenge she faced, Maya became more determined. She knew that the struggle was part of her transformation, and though the path was difficult, it was hers to walk. One evening, while attending a community event, Maya met someone who would change her perspective forever. Her name was Sarah, a woman who had gone through similar hardships and emerged stronger on the other side. As they spoke, Maya realized how much strength there was in shared experiences. Sarah's words were simple yet profound. You don't have to do it alone. It was a revelation that struck Maya to her core. For so long, she had thought that healing meant isolating herself. But in truth, healing thrived in connection. That night, Maya felt a deep sense of gratitude. She understood that while her journey was personal, the support of others was invaluable. It was through shared vulnerability that true healing could take place. Maya had made incredible progress, but fear still had its grip on her. The fear of failure, the fear of rejection, and the fear of not being enough were all still there, lingering in the back of her mind. But instead of letting these fears control her, she decided to face them head-on. One day, she decided to take a leap, something she had avoided for months. She applied for a job that she had always dreamed of, but felt unqualified for. The moment she hit submit on the application, her heart raced. But rather than retreating into her comfort zone, she chose to trust in her abilities. That night, Maya smiled to herself. She realized that fear was just a shadow, and the light of her courage was stronger. As Maya moved forward, the unknown became less daunting. She began to see it as an opportunity rather than a threat. The future was no longer something to fear, but something to embrace with open arms. Every unknown path she took led her to new discoveries about herself. Some were challenging, others exhilarating, but all were essential for her growth. Maya had stopped looking for certainty in every step and instead had learned to trust her inner compass. With each new day, she grew bolder, more willing to step into the unknown, knowing that it was there, in the uncertainty, that she would find her truest self. Weeks passed, and Maya's sense of inner peace began to deepen. It wasn't the absence of challenges or fears, but a calm acceptance of them. She had learned that peace wasn't something to be sought externally, but something that grew within, from the acceptance of both light and shadow. One morning, as Maya stood on the rooftop of her building, watching the sunrise, she realized just how far she had come. The struggles, the doubts, the fears, she had faced them all, and instead of breaking her, they had shaped her. She was no longer the woman who had felt lost and broken. She was someone stronger, someone who had found peace in the chaos of life. And in that moment, Maya understood that the journey was never about reaching a destination. It was about the growth that occurred along the way. Maya's life began to change in ways she hadn't imagined. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was thriving. The small victories she had once overlooked now stood out as milestones of her resilience. Her confidence grew, not from external validation, but from within. Each decision, whether big or small, was made with a quiet strength. The woman who had once questioned her every move now faced life with certainty. Maya understood that confidence wasn't about never doubting herself. It was about moving forward despite those doubts. And with each step, her belief in herself solidified until she became a beacon of quiet power, unshaken by the challenges ahead. Maya had always believed that success meant achieving a specific goal, a certain status or recognition from others. But as she grew, she began to redefine success on her own terms. It wasn't about fame or accolades. It was about living authentically and staying true to herself. She began to measure her success in moments of joy, in relationships that felt real, and in the peace she had cultivated within herself. Success became less about external achievements and more about personal fulfillment. Maya knew now that the true measure of success wasn't in what the world saw. It was in the contentment she felt within. With her newfound sense of peace and confidence, Maya became more open to the possibilities life had to offer. She stopped saying no to opportunities out of fear and started saying yes to experiences that once seemed too daunting. She traveled to new places, tried new hobbies, and even met new people, each experience opening her heart a little more. Maya discovered that life was full of endless possibilities, each one waiting for her to take a chance. She realized that the beauty of life wasn't in knowing exactly what would happen next, but in embracing the unknown with an open heart. Throughout her journey, Maya had learned one of the most important lessons of all: self-love. It wasn't a concept she had truly understood before. She had always placed others' needs before her own, believing that love was something to be earned. But now she understood that self-love was the foundation of everything. She began to treat herself with the kindness and compassion she had always shown others. She forgave herself for past mistakes and celebrated the progress she had made. Maya found that when she loved herself, she could love the world around her even more fully. Maya had made incredible strides, but one of the hardest lessons was learning to let go. There were things, people, memories, expectations that she had clung to for far too long. Letting go felt like tearing apart a part of herself, but Maya realized that holding on to these things was keeping her from truly moving forward. With each painful release, she felt a little lighter. She learned that letting go wasn't about giving up. It was about making room for something new. Maya let go of the past, not to forget it, but to make space for the future she was ready to embrace. Maya had always viewed vulnerability as a weakness. She had been taught to be strong, to hide her emotions and shield herself from the world. But as she continued her journey, she began to see vulnerability in a new light. It was through her openness, her willingness to be real, that she found true strength. One afternoon, while speaking with Sarah, Maya shared a deeply personal story from her past. She had always kept that part of herself hidden, afraid of being judged. But as Sarah listened intently, Maya felt a weight lift off her shoulders. It was in that moment that she realized vulnerability wasn't a burden, it was freedom. By allowing herself to be open and honest, Maya found a new sense of empowerment. She no longer feared her emotions, she embraced them. And in doing so, she discovered the strength to face anything that came her way. Maya's journey was far from over, but she had learned an invaluable lesson: patience. Healing and growth didn't happen overnight. There were no shortcuts, no magic solutions. The road to becoming the person she wanted to be required time, effort, and a great deal of self-compassion. One day, as she sat in a quiet cafe, Maya overheard a conversation between two strangers. They were discussing their own struggles and how they had found peace by simply allowing themselves to be patient. Maya listened carefully, nodding along. She realized how much pressure she had put on herself to get better quickly. Now, she knew that true progress came from allowing herself to take things one day at a time. Patience wasn't just about waiting, it was about trusting that each step, no matter how small, was part of the bigger picture. Maya's newfound perspective on life gave her the courage to make choices that were once unthinkable. No longer bound by the fear of failure or rejection, she began to take control of her life in ways she had never imagined. She started by setting boundaries, learning to say no when something didn't align with her values, and yes to things that brought her joy. At work, she took on new challenges despite the doubt that crept in from time to time. With each decision, she realized how much power she had over her own story. The power of choice was the key to her freedom. Maya now understood that she wasn't a victim of circumstances. She was the author of her own life, and every choice she made shaped the person she was becoming. Although Maya had grown incredibly strong, she knew that no one could do it all alone. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed by the weight of her journey, and that's when she learned the value of asking for help. One afternoon, Maya reached out to a therapist she had been considering for months. She had always prided herself on being self-sufficient. But this time, She realized that seeking support was a sign of strength, not weakness. Through therapy, Maya discovered new tools to cope with stress and deepen her understanding of herself. She began to see the importance of building a support system, not just of friends and family, but of professionals who could guide her along the way. As Maya grew stronger, she realized the importance of living in the present. She had spent so many years looking back at what she had lost or worrying about what could go wrong in the future. But now, she made a conscious effort to focus on the present moment. She spent her mornings drinking coffee in silence, feeling the warmth of the cup in her hands and savoring the taste. She took walks without distractions, letting the world unfold around her. Living in the moment didn't mean ignoring the past or the future. It meant appreciating what was right in front of her. Maya understood that peace was found not in the past or the future, but in the here and now. No journey is without its setbacks, and Maya's was no different. One morning, she woke up to an unexpected challenge that threatened to undo all the progress she had made. A setback at work, a conflict with a friend, and a wave of self-doubt all hit her at once. The old patterns of frustration and fear crept back in. For a moment, she wanted to retreat, to give up on everything she had worked for. But then something shifted inside her. She remembered all the lessons she had learned, the strength in vulnerability, the power of patience, and the importance of self-love. Maya refused to let this setback define her. She took a deep breath, adjusted her mindset, and decided to face the challenge head-on. Her resilience was stronger than any obstacle that stood in her way. As Maya reflected on her journey, she realized that what had once seemed like a series of random events now formed a clear, purposeful path. Every challenge, every triumph, had led her to this point. Her life was no longer driven by fear or doubt, but by a deep sense of purpose. She had discovered what truly mattered to her, living authentically, helping others, and embracing the beauty of life in all its forms. Maya's purpose wasn't tied to a specific goal or achievement, but to the way she lived each day. Her purpose was to be true to herself, to make a difference where she could, and to inspire others to do the same. This was the life she had worked so hard to create. Gratitude had always been something Maya took for granted. She had never fully appreciated the simple joys of life until she embarked on her journey. Now, gratitude had become a powerful tool in her healing process. Every morning, she wrote down 3 things she was grateful for. Some days, it was as simple as the warmth of the sun or the laughter of a friend. Other days, it was the strength she had found within herself to keep going. Gratitude wasn't just a feeling for Maya, it was a practice, a daily reminder of how far she had come. It helped her focus on the positive and shift her perspective when challenges arose. Maya had come to understand that her journey wasn't just hers. It was a shared experience. As she reached out to others, she found that her story had the power to inspire. She began sharing her experiences openly, whether through writing, speaking, or simply being there for someone who needed support. Each time she shared her story, she felt a deeper connection to the people around her. Maya realized that healing wasn't just about what we do for ourselves. It was also about how we uplift others along the way. The more she shared, the more she felt like a part of something bigger than herself. A community of individuals, all on their own paths to healing and growth. Maya's journey was not a destination, but a continuous process of growth and self-discovery. The woman who had once been lost in the darkness had now found light, not because the world was perfect, but because she had learned to embrace both the light and the shadows. She had walked through the fire and emerged stronger, more resilient, and more connected to her true self. Maya understood now that life was about progress, not perfection. Every step, no matter how small, was worth celebrating. And as Maya looked ahead, she knew there was so much more to come. The journey was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever came next with courage, grace, and a heart full of gratitude. If you found this story inspiring, please like this video and visit our channel for more empowering stories. Let's continue this journey of growth together.